today, inshallah, we are going to talk about the producer equilibrium and the expansion path for the business, right? As we mentioned before, that the producer equilibrium occurs when the isoquant curve tangents the isocoastline. Here is the isocoastline. Here the title is the expansion path. Here we have the quantity number of workers, quantity of labor, and the quantity of machines. Let us assume that the company has or spends the total cost of $200 available to be spent on two factors: production, labor, and machines, right? And the price period of L, the price of workers equals 10, and the price of machines equals $50. Derive the isocoastline. Number one, derive the isocoastline. To derive the isocoastline, we have to calculate the quantity of labor, the number of workers, which equals total cost over the price of L, equals 20 over 10 equals 200 over 10 equals 20 workers. And the quantity of machines here, number of machines, QM, equals total cost over the price of machines equals 200 over 50 equals 4 machines. Draw the isocoastline formula. The isocoastline curve. Here, QL and QM. Here the quantity of labor, we can write it as following: 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, and here 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on here. So here is the isocoastline, all right? تمام؟ طيب. Derive the isocoastline formula. Let's derive the isocoastline formula. To derive the isocoastline formula, we can write it, or we can say that QM equals 4 minus 4 over 20, right? 4 over 20 times the QL. So QM here equals 4 minus 0.20 QL. This is the isocoastline formula. Now, we will suppose that the producer equilibrium occurs when a QL equals 8 units. How many machines do we have, or should we buy? If the producer equilibrium occurs at a QL equals 8, how much is the quantum machine? So we have to use the formula here. QM equals 4 minus 0.20 QL. So QM equals 4 minus 0.2 here. Sorry? 1.6. صح؟ أيوه 8 times 0.20, 1.6. So QM equals 2.4. Here. should be 2.4. تمام؟ طبعا هو الاسامبشن بافتراضات المفروض يكون صحيح. فيش 2 ماشينز 2.4 ماشينز. تمام، بس الاسامبشن هيك طلع معنا بالافتراضات، طلعت هيك مش مركب يعني. تمام؟ طيب here is the equilibrium E1 بيقول لي at equilibrium this company or this business produces 500 quantity produced equals 500 units, 500 chairs. Let us assume. تمام؟ Okay? Now بيقول لي the business. This here is an assumption. هذا افتراض إنه at this point at equilibrium we produce 500 chairs. All right? تمام؟ طيب. The assumption is assume or suppose that the business or the company decided to expand. Expand means توسع. By adding capital investment, a new capital investment, تمام, to produce more chairs. And it added additional 200 shekels or dollars here. تمام? So the new total cost equals $400. تمام? This is the new total cost. Then the total investment, the inputs, بكم زاد 100% from 200 to 400. تمام؟ طيب. And the prices remain constant here. The price of L equals 10, price of M equals 50. Derive the new budget line or ISO cost line and determine the new equilibrium point. When, you know, so here QL equals how much? 400 over 10 equals 40, and QLM equals 400 over 50 equals 8. Right? Now we have a new ISO cost line here. Where is it? Here. 8 and 40. Sorry? Yes, 40 and 8. Here should be. We have to expand here. QL. معلش امسحه هذا. اوكي. Yeah, for 28, 32, 36, and 40. I'll use 8. So we have to connect these points here. This is the new ISO cost line, right? صح؟ تمام. بيقول لي if the new equilibrium occurs at QL equals 24. How many machines do we have, or should we buy? We have to derive the new budget line formula, or the new ISO cost line formula, صح? Then هو equilibrium إيش بيقول? The new equilibrium occurs here. E2 at a QL equals 24. How much is a QM? And the assumption at this point we can produce the outputs increased to 1,200 units. And this is an assumption, right? So here we have to derive the a new iso coastline formula صح؟ the new iso coastline formula QM equals 8 minus 8 over 40 صح؟ 8 over 40 QL. So QM equals 8 minus 0.20 QL. At equilibrium, at a new equilibrium, QL equals 24. So the quantity M equals, or should equal, QM equals 8 minus 0.20 times the QL, which is 24. How much is it? QM equals 8 minus 4.8. So QM equals how much? 3.2. صح? So here should be below this point here. صح؟ طيب. Is the expansion, so here we moved from A1 to A2. Is the expansion here good or bad for the company? Good. Why? We increased the inputs from $200 to $400, which means the inputs increased by how much? By 100%. So, then the outputs increased from 500 to 1,200, which is bigger than 100%. بكم لو زاد ب 100% قديش بصير؟ بصير 1000. It's bigger than 100%. So the expansion here is good. تمام؟ طيب. Here. So the expansion here is good. In this case, we can call it increasing retains to scale. The expansion path line, expansion path here will be like this here. Increasing. If the increasing in inputs is less than the increase in outputs, here we are talking about good situation. تمام? Good expansion. The expansion here is good, which means inputs increased by 100%, اللي هي الcost, and outputs increased by more than 100%. ده كم زاد هيك؟ هذا 1200. قديش زيادة نسبة الزيادة؟ 140%. So it's good. In this case, we can call it an increasing retains to scale, IRS. IRS. Increasing retains to scale. عوائد ذات حجم متزايد. بمعنى, which means the expansion here is good. Right? طيب. لو لقينا الاكسبانشن طالع معي هيك. الانبوتس increased by 100% and the outputs increased, quantity 2 here increased to 800. Is it good or bad? Bad. Why? Because the inputs increased by 100%, outputs increased by from 500 to 800 by how much? No, not 50, more than 50. $800 minus 500 over 500. قديش 300 over قديش 300 500 60%. 60%. It's just 60% here. تمام? So the expansion here is bad. تمام? So here we are talking about a decreasing retains to scale. تمام؟ إذن هنا هيك And the expansion path line will be like this here. Will be drawn like this here. The expansion path will be like this here. Here's decreasing retains to scale. تمام؟ EP. Decreasing retains to scale. The increasing retains to scale should be like this. If the inputs increased by 100% and the outputs increased by the same amount, 100%, constant retains to scale. بمعنى if, which means here, if the inputs increased by 100% and the Q increased from 500 to 1000, which means outputs increased by 100% as well. So طبعا هذا راح يكون زي هيك. هذا الكيس اللي قبله increasing retains to scale. Here the equilibrium will be like this. تمام؟ الفixed here will be fixed retains to scale or constant retains to scale. And the ISO or the expansion path will be like this here. A straight line. An expansion path. شوف كيف بصير؟ Here fixed or constant returns to scale. The equilibrium will be like this here. This is E1, E2, Q1 equals 500, Q2 equals 1000, and the third here, the percentage change in inputs equals the percentage change in outputs, right? تمام؟ طيب. اجوا two scientists or economists, Cobb and Dougluss. يعني واحد باول الاسماء هي اسماء العائلات. كوب اند دوغلاس عملوا دراسه بالامريكان ايكونومي على الاندستريال سيكتور وهيك, and they reached the following results. They designed the following formulas and reached to the following results here. They have studied the relationship between the increasing in inputs and outputs and reached to the following formula. تمام؟ نشوف ايش اللي طلعوا فيه. Cobb-Douglas function. Here, the Cobb-Douglas function. Cobb-Douglas function. The Cobb-Douglas function, Q, the outputs, equals A is constant here, times L raised to the power alpha times K is capital raised to the power beta here. Q is the output. A is constant. رقم ثابت. L is labor. Alpha is the elasticity of labor. Which equals, alpha equals a change in quantity in outputs over the percentage change in outputs over the percentage change in labor. Which means, what will happen to the output? What is the percentage change in outputs if the workers increased by any percent? تمام? Beta or K is capital machines. And beta here is the elasticity of capital. Beta is the elasticity of capital, which is the percentage change in outputs over the percentage change of machines, capital. Which means, what will happen to the output if the capital increased when we add more capital? Yes. تمام. This function is homogeneous. To understand the idea, and they said that if alpha plus beta, they assume that alpha, they said that if alpha plus beta is bigger than 1, the expansion is good and we have an increasing returns to scale. بمعنى the percentage change in outputs is bigger than the percentage change in inputs. شفتوا اللي أخذناه قبل شيء؟ So if alpha plus beta is bigger than 1, here we are talking about increasing returns to scale, which means expansion is good. Or the percentage change in outputs is bigger than the percentage change in inputs. So the expansion is good. وحنشوف الابلكيشنز هلقيت شو اللي اشتغلوا عليه. تمام؟ طيب. Number 2, if alpha plus beta summation تبعهم is less than 1, we have a decreasing returns to scale and the expansion is bad. Decreasing returns to scale and the expansion is bad or has negative impacts on the company or the business, right? So increasing outputs here is less than the percentage change in inputs. The third case, or the last case, if alpha plus beta equals 1, here we have constant returns to scale, CRS. C, constant returns to scale, and the expansion is normal. The increasing in outputs, the percentage equals the percentage increasing in inputs. To understand the idea here, let's have the following example. تمام؟ نشوف. Let us assume that the business has 1 worker and 1 machine. Yeah. 1 worker and 1 capital, 1 machine. And the quantity, the outputs equals 500 units. Which means if we have 1 worker with 1 machine, they can produce 500 units. تمام? Let us assume that the business decided to expand. بدهم يتوسعوا. They added more one more worker and one more machine. When they added one more worker بمعنى قديش الوركرز الضعف صار by 100% صاروا 2 وهذا 2 صح؟ sorry إذا 1000 if it was 1000 should be constant returns to scale. طب إذا أكثر من هيك increasing returns to scale. If less decreasing returns to scale. طب شو اللي بيحكمنا؟ ألفا وبيتا. نشوف الفورمولا هيك Q equals A times L raised to the power alpha times K raised to the power beta, right? Let us assume that A equals 4. Assumption. تمام؟ طيب. And alpha بدنا نخليها أكبر من 1. alpha وبيتا is bigger than 1. مجموع السميشن تبعهم is bigger than 1. يعني خلوا لي واحد والثاني واحد. مجموعهم قديش؟ 2 عشان أسهل الحسابات. إذن alpha assumption alpha equals 1 and beta equals 1. So alpha plus beta are bigger than 1. صح؟ شو راح يطلع عندي هذا؟ Expansion increasing returns to scale. So the output will be bigger than 1000. Should be هيك. مظبوط؟ طب نشوف. Let's calculate the first Q1 at 1 and the Q at 2 here. Q1 equals the formula 4 times L. How many workers here? 1 times or raise the power alpha 1 times K 1 raise the power 1. صح? So here Q equals sorry هذا يعني unknown هذا unknown معلش هذا بدنا نحسبه وبعدين نحسب الثاني ماشي بنات؟ اوكي إذا هذا مش assume should be calculated so here 4 times 1 times 1 4 so Q1 equals 1 equals 4 طب الثاني should be bigger than 8 صح because alpha plus beta is bigger than 1 نعم I don't know we have to calculate it Q2 equals A4 times 2 L raised the power alpha 1 times 2 raised the power 1 صح equals Q2 equals 16 إذا كلامهم صح هي أول واحدة so this is an increasing returns to scale تمام طيب if alpha plus beta equals 1 the summation of if alpha plus beta equals 1 بمعنى مجموعهم واحد خلوا لي alpha equals 0 وبيتا equals 1 مجموعهم قديش لازم تكون هذه خلينا نشوف ايش بصير معنا مش عارف شيلوا هذه وشيلوا هذه تمام نشوف the first case at Q equals Q1 here 4 is constant here times 1 raised the power alpha 0 right and 1 here how much is it here 4 then هذا 4 here طيب الثاني at Q2 here 4 times 2 raised the power 0 أي عدد أس صفر بواحد صح 4 في 1 في 2 8 إذا هذا مظبوط if alpha plus beta summation if alpha plus beta equals 1 شو الوضع constant returns to scale which means inputs increased by 100% outputs increased by 100% as well تمام لو زاد ب 50% by 50% should be increased by 50% outputs تمام here alpha 0 beta 1 قديش مجموعهم طيب هذا افتراض هيو هذا الكيس نمبر 3 if alpha plus beta equals 1 Here we have a constant returns to scale. تمام؟ طيب what else? The second case, if alpha plus beta is less than 1. يعني خلوا لنا واحدة، خلوهم اصفار. مش أقل من واحد، أو خلي let's assume that alpha equals 0 وهذا نص، بس ما بديش أدخل في الجذور. تمام؟ خليها 0 0. بصير ولا بصيرش؟ تمام. So خلينا let's assume that alpha equals 0 and beta equals 0 as well. اعمل applications على هذا. If alpha equals 0 beta 0 alpha plus beta is less than 1. قديش هذا راح يكون عندي؟ raised to power 0 4. طب الثاني 0 4. فيش increasing أصلا صح؟ طب خلوها نص، هذا half 0.5 عشان نشتغل على الجذور. قديش هذا هيك؟ هذا جذر الواحد مظبوط؟ صح؟ 1. إذن هذا بده يكون 4. طب الثاني 4 times 2 جذر الاثنين قديش؟ اعملي على الآلة ولا أنت بتزبطش الروتس الجذور؟ نعم سوري الجذور بتزبط معكم قديش؟ قديش؟ كلها 5.6. So 5.6 here. في increasing بس by how much؟ تمام. That's it. يعني بالconstant returns to scale should be 8. بالincreasing returns to scale should be larger than 8. Here it should be less than 8. That's it. تمام؟ يعطيكم العافية.